Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
So you see Jared was X'd out there? So it's just like old time's sake, Shawn, just you and I talking a little bit of football because Jared, after 2 weeks, apparently got upside the head and reminded that he has to go to a surprise party. And so he's on the injury list this week, and he's out. So just you and I, man.
Yeah, I don't want to pick on him while he's down, but, I thought he would add comedy to the show, but the man's hitting. Jokes on us, apparently.
Well, so far. You want to talk about – so you want to get right back to so William's coming out of the barn here saying he likes Miami and the points. I don't think you're alone on that. But since you're talking about – unlike a lot of other degenerates, Shawn, we hold ourselves accountable. We make everything we say, everything we do is well, first of all, it's not scripted. So anything could happen. But secondly, it's all there on the internet for everybody to see, good, bad, and otherwise, right?
Right. I mean, it's right like the horse racing shows. Everything's live. So there's no editing going on. There's not much coordination. We talk about what we're going to talk about, but we don't know what's going to come out of our mouth. So,
well, the only thing we ever do is we know the track that we're going to do, Terry and I, or Charles. And then we also know, like on the guests, who the guests are going to be. Those are probably a little bit more researched. I can't say that because I do a lot of homework for the handicapping shows for horse racing. But every single thing we do out on the internet, in the public, not altered. We don't hide it behind any walls. We don't just highlight when we do good, right? Everything is out there. Like I said, the good, bad, the ugly. And last week we started out, well, you and I with the ugly. And Jared did all right over there. I mean, the Giants really saved his rear end coming through to win that game. That 2-point conversion for Jared was it's the difference between really getting whooped or because that's a $400 swing for him. I mean, a $300 swing for him, right?
Yeah, it's crazy about that is I'm sitting there Sunday and I was all in on Tennessee and thinking nothing of the Giants. And then I remembered Tennessee is notorious for losing to bad teams. I mean, last year the Jets were banged up and they went into Tennessee and won. So Tennessee is one of those teams. They'll be a good team and then they just lose to teams that they shouldn't win. So very hard to trust in that.
4-4 last week. Yours is really a matter of you had the wins on I won 100, but all of your losses were, I think, 200. Well, only one of them. So you ended up taking a beating there. I took a bigger beating, boy, and I tell you, Shawn, it could have been a lot worse for me because a 58-yard field goal needed for Cleveland to win. And then on top of that Denver-Seattle game, I thought that game was going over for sure at halftime, but fortunately they only scored 3 points in the second half. So 2-5, not my favorite start, but it's definitely better than 0-7. And an 0-7 start might take you the rest of the year to dig your way out of.
Yeah, it's amazing how like the Denver-Seattle game, they go up and down the field, and then all of a sudden the second half, it's a completely different game. And that happens quite a bit.
Fumble at the 1-yard line twice.
Yeah. I mean, how many times can you get down to the 1-yard line and not score a touchdown?
Apparently twice. Right?
Yeah.
All right. So this week we're going to do things a little bit differently this week. Last week we ran down every game. Instead of doing that, what we're going to do is we're just going to make our picks, and then like the leans and all that sort of stuff, we'll post them online or we'll put them at horseracingtoday.net. I have to create an NFL page for horseracingtoday.net. I'm kind of a little bit reluctant to do it, maybe do it all on social media, Shawn, not because we're trying to hide anything, but because the way SEO, search engine optimization, works, from what I understand from Google, when you start throwing things into the mix that don't fit in to the general theme, it can hurt your search rankings. So if there's an SEO expert out there that knows otherwise, please let me know. I would appreciate the feedback on that. But otherwise, we'll make sure that we put all of our stuff somewhere and we'll note where it is so everybody can find it. But for sure, all of our videos are right here on YouTube. And while you're here, we're only, I think, about 8 people away from 2,000. So please hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Help us get to 2,000. We appreciate all the support. Of course, you can catch all of our horse racing stuff Monday through Saturday. Sunday is the only day we take off because we're Chick-fil-A around here, Shawn.
Yeah, we're watching. At this point, we're watching football on Sundays.
Maybe you are. I'm working. All right, so Jared's not here today. So I guess, my plan was we'd all make picks, and then we'd either make fun of the other guy's picks or we would confirm them. So I guess with Jared not here, we just get to make fun of him, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, don't we usually do that with each other anyway?
Mm-hmm, usually. All right.
We're usually not always on the same page.
No, there's a couple of games today that we're all disagreeing on. So week 2, here are our picks for week 2, Sean. I don't know. Can you see that or not? Is it hard to see? Let me make it a little bit bigger. It's kind of hard to see. Yeah, all right. So let me just make it a little bit bigger so you can see our big heads. Can you see it now?
There we go. Yep.
All right. So let's get started with Jared. Jared's making his money on taking money line. So he started off with the Chiefs last night on a money line. He brought that one home, much to Sean's chagrin, because he was on the other side of that with the Chargers. But the both of them only went 1 unit, so they can recover for week number 2. And then I think Jared's feeling a little bit full of himself going with some of these picks. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, wow. Lions and Jaguars with 2 units on both. Those are not that's not a sentence you usually hear a lot.
Not in 2022. But the Lions, if you look at what's funny about this, what's really funny about this is that the Lions are the only ones that are favored.
Yeah. But I don't have either one as an official pick, but if you told me to pick both games, I probably would go Jags Lions, so I'm going to lean that way. The Texans, though, that's overreaction from what happened with Denver on Monday, I think.
Well, don't you think a lot of these lines and stuff, that's the one thing about week number 2 and 3, I think, where I feel like there's an opportunity because I do feel like there is perhaps Vegas, I don't think overreacts, but I think bettors overreact. And when bettors overreact, they move the lines around. And if they move the lines around, they can overreact and make some value plays for degenerates, right? That's exactly what we are. So what do you think about that? You think there are some value plays this week because of some overreactions?
Absolutely. I know at least one of mine is definitely, I feel like, an overreaction play. Maybe 2, but definitely 1. So you definitely, you definitely have that. But I mean, speaking of the Houston game, I mean, Denver is still favored by 9 or 10 points. So Vegas really ain't overreacting. It's going to be, like you said, what the bettors are going to do with that.
Yeah, I mean, how they move the lines around. So, okay. So for week number 2, Jared's going to go with the Jaguars, taking the plus 50 money line, putting 2 units on that. He's going to go with the Lions. They're at home versus the Washington Commanders. He's going to put 2 units on the Lions. I don't think the Jaguars are going to win. I think the Colts are going to be a motivated team. Matt Ryan can't be as statuesque as he was in the first game. So I would probably not go with that bet. The Texans at the Broncos, I don't see that, Sean, either. That's a tough place to play in Denver. The Broncos are a 9.5 point favorites, so they're one of the biggest favorites on the weekend. That'd be a pretty big upset. The Dolphins and the Ravens, I can see that maybe happening, Sean, because the Ravens, their offense sometimes can sputter. They might struggle a little bit containing Tyreek Hill, although there's a lot of talk already. I don't know if you saw that, but Sean Payton says he thinks Teddy Bridgewater might be the starter there before the year's over.
No, I did not see that. I disagree with that.
Well, there's a lot of talk about the weakness of Tuilova's arm. They say he's just not got a good enough arm to be able to take maximum advantage of the ability that Tyreek Hill has.
Neither does Teddy Bridgewater have an arm, really. So, I mean, they're the same quarterback when we're talking about that.
Probably could well be. So the Dolphins, he's taking 1 unit on them at plus 166. So that's a decent number there. Although the one thing about the Ravens, I feel like they're one of those teams that usually comes out of the barn on fire and then subsequently starts to kind of peter out as the year goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say I wouldn't take much out of that Jets victory because the Jets had opportunities there. I didn't think the Ravens played ultimately that good. The score kind of was deceiving on that one. But at the same time, I don't think the Ravens really they didn't get to prove anything and they didn't really get to disapprove everything. So, I mean, jury will still be out on the Ravens this year.
Well, I mean, you can't say the jury's out. I mean, they are what they are, right? I mean, they've been the same squad for the last couple of years. It's who they are. So I don't know. I mean, they're clearly a better team than the Jets. I don't think there's any question about that.
No.
All right, so let's see some other picks that Jared has in the Cowboys-Bengals game. He's going to go over 41.5 for a unit. It's minus 110. What do you think about that game?
Yeah, that's one I wouldn't touch with everything going on with Dallas and the quarterback situation. Also, Cooper
Rush. The one time he played, he put up points.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
I think they're going to score. I think there's going to be points put up in this game. Cincinnati did move the ball up and down the field against Pittsburgh. Joe Burrow throwing 4 interceptions. Otherwise, they might have been in the 30s against Pittsburgh. And then, but I do think, much like Pittsburgh, because for whatever reason, the front office, they must not like Joe Burrow because they give him an offensive line that I would probably be uncomfortable with in a flag football league.
See, and that's the problem. I think the Bengals are going to have to run the ball more, so they're not getting sacked, and Burrow's not running for his life. And I would expect Dallas to play a little bit more conservative as well, with Cooper Rush being in there for the first week this year. And also the fact that I've been talking about this for a while. Dallas does not have the weapons. So they don't have when Cooper Rush came in against Minnesota, they had weapons. They don't have those weapons anymore. So I see a hard time seeing a lot of points in that game.
To me, I think in the NFL,
but I'm not comfortable enough going the under neither. So I mean, that says what.
To me, in the NFL, I think and I'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute. But they're like guardrails with overs and unders. There's a point where the number gets too low for NFL games and gets too high for NFL games. Because really, 41.5, I think 40 is that break-off number. Because to get the 41 does not take a whole lot. 3 touchdowns per team in the course of a game. And, that's one defensive. I mean, just look at last night with Kansas City. One defensive touchdown changes the entire outcome of the game. And I can see there being a lot of turnovers in that Bengals-Cowboys game. A lot of turnovers equals typically a lot of points. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some cheap short field touchdowns from both sides, and then maybe a defensive score or so. So when the number's around 40, it really starts to get my spidey sense that I'm heavily lean on the over in that game. I was almost one I was going to play myself, but I don't like to double dip, Sean.
Okay.
And then finally, the Cards and the Raiders are Jared's other pick. He wants to go under 51.5. And I do feel like that once you started getting around 52, 53, that's the point where you got to start thinking under, because that's where one of those 6-minute drives that turns into a field goal instead of a touchdown, or a fumble at the 1 yard, not once, but twice, alters the outcome of the game. So once you start getting in those, 52, 53, 54 point range, I'm start thinking about the unders no matter who the teams are.
I hear you, but I would lean the other way on both of those. But Jared's been doing better than me, so.
Well, I mean, that's temporary, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals, you saw what Kansas City did to the Cardinals last week. And I know it's Kansas City, but they did not put up those points against the Chargers last night. I mean, they still put up some points.
You know what, Sean? The one thing I can tell you about the NFL, my friend, the NFL is not a last week league. It is a week-to-week league.
I understand, but the Cardinals' defense is not that good. The Raiders' strength is their offense, not their defense. Their defense is decent, but their offense is the strength of the team. So 51.5, I would say that limit that you're talking about, I would start questioning kind of where last night's game was, even though I leaned over, where that 53, 54 points. Yeah, that's where, to me, it becomes, they really got to get it. They can't do what they did last night in that first quarter and start really slow. And then, they almost got there, but that first quarter cost them.
Well, I can just say this, Sean, that to me, I just said 53, 54. You just said, yeah, got to be a little higher. All right. Let's get to your pick, Sean, and then we'll go to mine. The Dolphins versus the Ravens. You're going to take the Dolphins. You're going to agree with William on 3.5 points. Tell us why you think the Dolphins are going to get this game, Sean.
Well, we talk about numbers. I think this is a perfect number. I feel like this is a field goal game. So I'm not going to be as bold as Jared and say Miami's going to win this game, but I definitely see this being a close, tight game all the way through. And either Miami pulls it out or they lose by a field goal. I think they match up pretty good with Baltimore. like I said, I was not impressed with Baltimore last week. I'm usually not impressed with Baltimore, especially the last year plus. So give me 3.5 with a team that's going to be pretty, you might have sold me on Miami at this point. I liked what I saw last week, and it was against New England, who's struggling, but they may be better than what I thought they were going to be.
So looking at the line, Sean, it's opened up at 3.5. It stayed at 3.5. It looks to me like the betting public agrees with you. That's the right number because it hasn't altered a bit. It does look to me, though, like Baltimore, you start to see 105s. You might see that number go the other way, maybe tick up to 4. It's a possibility. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, 105s mean to me that a lot of money's coming there, maybe. Well, actually, they're trying to attract money at -1. So I could see that line going to 3, right? Because the lower the line goes, they want people to take that. They're trying to make it more attractive. So maybe that line goes to 3. So if the line goes to 3, 3.5 is going to look awfully smart on Friday night. Because that's
what I was going to say. You want that hook. 3.5 to 4. If you take them now and it goes to 4, it shouldn't hurt you. If it goes down to 3,
yeah.
No, but I'm saying if you get yourself locked in at 3.5 and you miss out because it goes to 4, it's not that big of a deal. But if you right now don't take the 3.5 and you get it at 2.5 or 3, that could really come back to bite you.
Yeah, because you're starting to see like the number like 115. That number is definitely going to come down to 3 at some point in time. So all right, so that's one of your games. For me on the Ravens game with the Miami Dolphins, I think I'm leaning the Dolphins too, but I do think it's a game that the Ravens are probably 54% likely to win. So I always have a hard time betting teams. I like to bet my teams to win and cover because the rule is that about 80% of the time, the team that wins covers, right? Somewhere around there. Probably varies from year to year. All right, next up in Sean's Pickorama. He thinks I believe that this is I don't know what kind of reaction this is, to be honest with you. The Seahawks, they won their game. the 49ers, they lost their game to the Bears of all people or all teams. Seahawks beat a Broncos team that everybody's kind of high on, and yet somehow the Seahawks are getting 9 points. I guess they're saying that, well, I put it this way. Geno Smith was Cinderella, and then halftime was midnight.
Yeah, this is one of those, you look at the line, and like you said, it's the beginning of the year kind of line. Actually, there is no reaction from last week because if there was, this would be a different number. So I look at it as
a different number. I mean, you really think based on what the 49ers and Trey Lance played last week, they should be a 10-point favorite against anybody in the NFL, let alone a division rival?
No, that's what I'm saying. That this actually isn't an overreaction. If it was an overreaction, it would be less than 9 points. Yeah, So this is more like if they played week 1. Maybe week 1 they play. It's probably 13, 14 points. So it did come down a little bit, I guess.
Why would it be 13 or 14 points? I can't ever remember the 49ers being a 14-point favorite against the Seahawks.
Well, because a lot of people are really high on the 49ers before last week, and a lot of people were really low on Seattle.
You can't put me in that group.
So
history says quarterback Trey Lance, love him. I don't know the guy, but I wish him nothing but success. But history says, man, you're making your first real run at a starting quarterback in the NFL. It's going to be difficult for you because you're not going to always recognize you're going to get tricked. And like he did last week, you're going to make a mistake at a crucial moment like he did against the Bears, and boom, the game's over.
Yeah. I just didn't think the 49ers were that good anyway. And then I know the whole weather thing last week, but to lose to the Bears 19-10, Geno Smith played well. I know he didn't play as well in the second half.
He played.
I know the second. But he still didn't look.
Just turned into a pumpkin, my friend.
He still didn't look terrible. I mean, you got to remember, I'm a Jets fan. I've seen Geno Smith look terrible. That was that had to be the best football I've ever seen Geno Smith play. I mean,
first half uncertainly,
yeah,
absolutely.
Now, if you're talking that blind better, and how you say it a week, this is probably the wrong pick because if you look at week 1, you would look at and go, how the hell is Seattle getting 9 points? And everybody would jump on Seattle, which means run the other way for San Fran.
So you know what they call that? The square sucker bet.
Yeah. So I'm the sucker, But
Well, I mean, you need
I'm
not let
hoping,
everybody. We all know that already. Sure.
I'm hoping to be the winning sucker in this one because I just can't see it any other way. San Fran probably gets off the sign and wins, but it's probably a close game. I don't think they come out and do anything special. I question Trey Lance a lot, and it's going to take him a while. He might be a good quarterback by the end of the year, but it's by the end of the year. I think week 2 right now, with everybody as high on San Fran as they were, you're still going to get lines like this. Take advantage of it now.
So you're so confident you put 1 unit on it. Good to see.
Yeah, that's that whole sucker bet. That's why, because I know it could be a sucker's play.
I think he might be sitting on a sucker's play there. All right, Sean, let's take a gander on over here. You're going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New England Patriots at under 40. See, now both of these games, Sean, you're going under at these totals where, you're one mistake. So if teams score touchdowns, so in order for you to, in my opinion, in order to win these unders in the NFL that are like 40 points in that range, you got to have really crappy weather. So that scoring is going to be very difficult. I don't know what the weather is supposed to be like in Pittsburgh or in Green Bay, but it's still like fall, nice. I'd imagine at Green Bay be in the 60s at night. And then the Pats and the Steelers probably in the low 70s. All you need is if those teams score touchdowns instead of kick field goals, you need field goals. If they drive and kick field goals, you're home free. Touchdowns and you in trouble.
Well, both the strength of the Patriots and Steelers are defense. Both their offenses don't have too many weapons. They're very conservative. They're both coming off tough games last week. Steelers did prevail, but they went through a lot to get there, and they shouldn't have prevailed if it wasn't for Burrow throwing 4 interceptions.
No, I wasn't Burrow. It was the field goal kicker, brother.
Oh, well, yeah, but Burrow threw 4 interceptions too.
But they tied the game with no time left on the clock, and the dude missed the extra point. I mean,
well, no,
you
but
can
that was
blame
the
Burrow
whole.
all you want, but they had a chance to win that game, and the guy didn't execute.
Well, it wasn't the kicker. It was one of his linemen were out, and that's exactly where the guy came up and blocked it. Saying on that, we want to get started on that. I don't understand why teams don't start going for the touchdowns.
What do you mean touchdown? They go for you mean instead of
kicking the field goals? These guys get in field goal range in overtime or whatever. No, we got this game won. Pressure's on the defense. Play conservative, but still try to score the touchdown. And if you get in the end zone, you don't have to worry about a field goal kick. Got to start doing that instead of missing these kicks. But I don't see a lot of touchdowns in this game at all. I mean, you got Mitchell Trubisky and Matt Jones. Defenses, they play conservative. They don't have weapons. I'm comfortable taking the under 40.5. It could be much lower than that.
You mean the game itself or the total? I don't think the total could be much lower than that in an NFL game.
This total could be like 30 points. It could be 17-14 type game.
Oh, you mean the actual score?
Yeah.
And that line is 40.5 minus 107. That's the best you can get on the under, Sean. That's what we got for you. The other game, you're going to go Green Bay at nighttime. I don't usually do my nighttime pick until I see how I do in the daytime. If I'm up, then I'll let my money run. If I'm down, I certainly don't make a habit of chasing. Another game where 41.5, I agree. I mean, the Bears scored 19 last week. You got to think Green Bay is going to rebound off of a 7-point game.
They may rebound and they may win. But again, we saw it last week. They don't have the weapons. So they're not going to go up and down the field on Chicago. And Chicago's, again, the strength of Chicago's team is that defense, not the offense. The offense just holds their own, conservative.
I don't know there's such thing as strength on the Chicago's Bears team.
Well, but their defense is miles ahead of their offense. And their offense just plays it close to the best. I mean, Fields is doing good for what he has.
Who froze? Did you freeze or did I freeze? I'm not quite sure who froze. So let's see. Sean, who froze? You or me? Anyway, if Sean froze, I think in that game, I'm going to go with the 2 games that Sean mentioned in there. I'm going to go with the totals with the Steelers in New England. I think that game goes slightly over. I have them coming in at 43 points. And then as far as the Green Bay game against the Chicago Bears, I have that game coming in at 42. So I just a half a point above the total. So I think Swiss Army Shawn has returned. Shawn, where'd you go, bro? Look at there's two of you now.
That internet was weak, so we're on a hot spot here, and it's all a lot better, so we're good. I don't know what happened with the internet. I guess you always talk about that secret sauce. I was giving the secret sauce of the Vegas picks away this week, and somebody cut it out.
Well, I said I disagree with both of you. I have both games going slightly over. In the Bears game against Green Bay, I have a total score of I opened up the wrong Excel sheet. Excuse me. I have them coming in, Chicago and Green Bay coming in at 42, so just a half a point above the total. And in that Steelers game against the New England Patriots, I got that game coming in at 43. So they're both going to be borderline in terms of my projections, but both are going to be over. So way too close for me to even think about it.
Yeah, what's crazy too is all 4 primetime games so far this year has gone under. So we'll go 4. The under is 4-0 going into that Chicago Green Bay game too.
Yeah, I don't really put much stock in that.
Well, I didn't put thought into it until we were just talking about it.
That's the way to build confidence. I didn't put any thought in my picks until I just
no. I didn't. That stat didn't go into that play there, but the stat is there. So
I thought you were telling you shouldn't put any thought into your picks.
When you start seeing trends like that, because we see this every year with baseball, basketball, football, you start seeing trends like that and you don't want to believe it. And then by the end of the year, it's like, it's this tremendous stat. So stats like that, you may want to start following because it could be a trend throughout the year.
So, I don't think playing at night on TV makes a difference. It might be something I don't know.
Just a weird trend.
Yeah, I don't think I think they'll just go just as quick as they go one way, they'll go the other way. Like just black and red on the roulette wheel. Saints, Shawn, I think you're leaning towards an overreaction in this game. I don't think the Saints. Who do you think they're overreacting towards? Tampa Bay, or are they overreacting to the just horrible game that the Saints played, where they just got plain lucky in getting the win against one of the worst teams in the NFL?
Well, I know this, and this is why I went with the Saints. The Saints have swept the Bucs the last 2 years. Brady struggles against the Saints. I don't know what they do defensively to him, but he does not face – I mean, he comes in sometimes to the Saints, and he's setting the world on fire, and he comes in against the Saints, and they just figure him out, and they don't do anything. So until that trend bucks, I'm taking the Saints all day on this. And their defense is even better this year, I feel, than they were last year and the year before.
Oh, yeah, the mighty Falcons moved up and down the field on them. That's a great defense.
That may be, but don't overreact to week one. You know who they have out there for defense, and I think they match up well there. So
I think that
you got to take the plus value.
Kamara being potentially not on the field, I think, is a big negative for them because I don't know that Mark Ingram can bring the versatility. Or Taysom, what's his name? Taysom what? The quarterback? I forget.
Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill, yes. I don't know that he can bring the same sort of flexibility. I mean, you got 2 bowling balls back there versus a Ferrari with what you have in Kamara. I do think Michael Thomas is a nice target to have back for Jameis Winston. But I also think, Shawn, you talk about the New Orleans defense against Tom Brady. I'm going to suggest to you that the Tampa Bay defense is going to know Jameis Winston inside out, upside down, and backwards, and will goad him into at least 2 interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, it's not – Winston likes to throw interceptions, but maybe he'll throw 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. But Brady's not going to do anything.
Maybe Brady will throw 5 and none.
Brady's not going to do anything against that Saints defense. And, I mean, Dallas has a good defense, and they held them pretty good, only 19 points. But the last – 4 times, well, I got 5 scores here. Saints won 9-0 the last time in December, and that was with Brady starting. And then they won 36-27. There was a 38-3 game in there. That was a primetime game where he got completely dominated. 34-23. I mean, these games aren't even close. The Saints are dominating Tampa. So it's just one of those Tampa and Brady does not match up well with the Saints for whatever reason.
Well, last week I got 2 picks right, Shawn, and one of them we were on opposite sides of the pick. The only time we were on the opposite side. And guess what? I am on the opposite side. I'm taking the Bucs. I'm going to lay it the 2.5 points at minus 105 for 1 unit because I do think the Tampa Bay wins this game outright and does so by about 5, 6, 7 points, somewhere in that range. because I don't think that offense with Jameis Winston is at all effective in New Orleans. They were really lucky to win last week. And certainly I feel like, those trends are made to be broken. I see that trend breaking, Sean. Looking at the lines here, your plus line is plus 125. I'm getting minus 105. We're on the opposite side of each other. So hopefully I get a 58-yard field goal again.
Well, yeah, I can't see it. I don't know.
Well, we'll find out. Right? That's why they play the games.
I can't tell you how many times last year I had the Bucks over the Saints, and it was not working.
Well, the most you could have did is twice. So I don't know how many more times you could do that.
It felt like 100.
Yeah, right. Well, the Cowboys should get 100 points based upon the way they played the first week, and Cincinnati certainly moved the ball up and down the field against a very good Steelers defense, but I think this is one of those overreaction games, Sean. I really do. I do think that Cincinnati is probably going to win the game, but a touchdown on the road, home dogs, taking the road favorites with 7 points or more. I don't have the exact stat on that, but I remember seeing before that, like, once it gets to a touchdown, the road team being favored by a touchdown it's not a really high winning percentage. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys. The time Cooper Rush did play, they did play very well. But I think more importantly, everybody on that team is hearing all the talk about how they got no chance without Dak Prescott. Their season is, how many headlines did you read? The Cowboys season is over. Now, if I'm one of the other 53 men on that roster, I'm going to be kind of pissed off about that kind of talk. Like, I don't exist. Right?
Yeah. How many times do you see it? And you talk about this a lot where because of an injury, the line just balloons and the team that lost somebody usually covers and sometimes puts up a really, really good fight and almost wins the game. So I agree with you there. I would have a hard time taking Dallas plus 7 just because of the unknown. And I was not impressed last week and they have no weapons. If I were thinking that Dallas is going to cover with the plus 7, I would go to the under at that point because then I'm thinking Dallas's defense is going to stop Cincinnati, and that's where it's going to be. So
I think
I understand what
is going to be running for his life again.
Yeah, and I could see that, and that's where I would go maybe the under. But I guess you could go either way here. I just wouldn't trust Dallas with the points. It's not the quarterback situation as much as it's the weapon situation as well.
I think they'll just be fine. They'll figure out how to move the ball around. You have regression, and then the Cowboys offense should regress up. I think Cincinnati played to their level. They just turned the ball over. I still think this game is going to be littered with turnovers, and I do think the Cowboys will get their fair share of turnovers as well. And I think that game, because of that, is more likely to go over than under. But I'm on the Cowboys plus 7. The line was actually 7.5 before, Sean, so I wouldn't be surprised to see it move back to 7.5. If you look on the lines here, let's see, Dallas, Cincinnati was 6. Oh, it moved to 7.5 again. So, Matt, I'm going to go to 7.5. Sean, I'm taking 7.5 for the Cow. Well, you can't get 7.5 yet for minus 110, but I think it'll eventually get there. I'm going to take the hook on game day, but for the purposes of our show, purposes of record keeping, I got minus 7 for right now. Next game on my docket, Sean, is another overreaction game, in my opinion. I think the Cardinals going to the Raiders. Yeah, the Raiders offense. The Raiders are the Raiders. Derek Carr is their quarterback. No matter what you want to do, he does not like to push the ball down the field. And as a result, their offense is always kind of limited to dinking and dunking. It takes a while to get down the field, and then inevitably they get a holding penalty or they throw an interception and they take points off the board. I think the Cardinals will be more high-flying this week, get back to what they're supposed to be in a high-scoring game that I expect to be within a field goal. So I'm going to take the Cardinals. I think there's a really good chance that they win this game outright. But, Sean, you know my motto, take the points.
Yeah, and I could see this game going either way. I didn't trust it either way. I would hope the Cardinals' defense is not as bad as it looked last week. And their offense did all right. They scored 24 points, but it was kind of garbage time too. So, and the Raiders put up a good fight against the Chargers, but their offense, like you said, they didn't put up as many points as you might have thought. So we'll find out.
Well, I think the Chargers, much like the problems that they had last year, they're manifested again this year. and that's the Chargers. And I think the Raiders have the same problem. It manifested last week as well. They can move the ball between the 20s, no problem. Once they get inside the 20s, it's not so easy to move the ball no more. And then they make mistakes. Yeah. And the next thing you know, some dude that was working at Wendy's 3 years ago picks you off and runs 99 yards for a touchdown.
And that shouldn't be with the Raiders it shouldn't be for either team, but it really shouldn't be for the Raiders. You got a guy like Darren Waller at tight end, and you can put out for receiver or whatever. You should be able to score touchdowns a lot of times in the red zone with guys like that.
You would think, right? And then they got a bowling ball in there for a running back. That
Jacobs,
from
but he seems to struggle on short yardage too, and he shouldn't because he's that type of back. But
I think a lot of those guys, they look for holes instead of just smashing it up in there. You know what I'm saying? So you could see some guys kind of dancing around looking for a hole, and I think the guys who are really good at converting, like a Zeke and so forth, Jerome Bettis, those guys weren't looking for holes; they were looking for somebody to hit. Right? And there's a big difference. They want to deliver a blow and end up falling forward. All right. As for the overs for me, Texans and the Broncos, Sean, I think this game goes under. I think that Broncos defense is going to really stymie that Texans offense unquestionably. And then I don't know. I think the Broncos are kind of torn between, do we want to be a running team? Do we want to be a passing team? They haven't made up their mind yet. So their offense looked a little disjointed to me on Monday night. I expect, because Russell Wilson is still there, that they'll probably continue to be a little bit disjointed. But the one thing about the Broncos, I feel like, is if they get up on the team, they're going to try to kill the clock, and they should be able to hold the Texans, I think, under 20 points. So I see this game 45.5, I think, is a number way, way, way too high for me, Sean. I see this game coming in closer to, let's see, pull it up here real quick. I have this game coming in at 37 points, and I think they'll struggle to break 40 between the two of them.
Wow. So I'll say about the Texans, they're not always a talented team, but this Davis Mills, if you put him on a good team with good weapons, I mean, he makes some of these plays with no weapons. I think this guy's really growing into something. It's hard to say with Russell Wilson because I could see it going the other way too. That was an emotional game, so you could still have the letdown here. But he always played well in Seattle, so I'd imagine he's going to play well. Denver's another team where you have that real big home field advantage. So I'd imagine he's going to play really well there. I could see it going either way.
But to me, here, I think Denver's going to win this game and probably have it in hand, right, going into the fourth quarter. Maybe. I mean, it's an NFL game. You never know. But if they have the game in hand going into the fourth quarter, they got that two-headed running back committee. I think they'll try to run. And then if they run, they'll kill the clock, right? So I can see the game being in a situation where it looks like it's going to go over, but the fourth quarter just basically disappears. Williams says, bring the refrigerator back. Yes, indeed. He'll just put his head down, and he's looking for contact, baby.
Yeah, or they'll run the timeout and kick a 64-yard field goal.
Yes, and miss. And return it to the touchdown, and you'll cry because that will be a bad beat. All right, Sean, and then the final pick of this week, I've saved it for the best. Your team, the New York Jets. J-E. Why do they spell out Jets? Is that kind of like an admission that they're just a low IQ fan base that they have to remember how to spell Jets?
I have no idea, but I've never heard it explained that way.
I just pissed off half of New York, right? Well, probably just about a quarter. They're all Giants fans anyway. All right, so I'm kidding, of course. All the New Yorkers are very smart people. I think this is what we talked about this a little bit earlier. 39 points in an NFL game. Just way, I don't care how bad the offenses are. It's just way, way, way too low. I can see your boy, your favorite quarterback in all of the NFL, Joe Flacco, with a couple of turnovers. Myles Garrett whacking that statue back there, causing a couple of fumbles. I could see Nick Chubb running in a couple of nice runs, and Kareem Hunt and Jacoby Brissett, maybe throwing an 8-yard touchdown pass. I think you're going to see the Browns get into the mid-20s, maybe 26, 7 points. And then all I need for this game to go over is the Jets to find 2 touchdowns. I know they only found 1 last week, right? Yeah. But I think they can. I think if Baker Mayfield can get 2 touchdowns against them, I think Joe Flacco can get 2 against them.
Yeah, that's why this line's so low. You got Flacco versus Brissett here, both very conservative. Defenses, again, are better than the offenses. I will say The Jets' 2 cornerbacks did not give up anything last week. This kid, Sauce in the secondary, their cornerback, nobody throws to him. So lucky for other teams, the Jets have other weaknesses and they take advantage of that. So it is a low number. I just wouldn't be able to rely on Flacco or Brissett for my points. But if I'm a Jets fan like I am, I hope whatever it takes, Flacco is out this week.
Wait. You're wishing the injury on the dude?
I didn't say that.
Well, you said whatever it takes. Whatever it takes includes injury.
No, I didn't. I did not wish any injury. I did not wish any injury.
I hope you never run into Flacco on the street, Sean. You might have a black eye.
He's a calm guy. He's laid back. That's part of his problem.
Yeah,
he's back there cool as a cucumber. No. I don't want him to get hurt, but
any means follows. Getting hurt.
I know.
Under
okay,
that umbrella.
well,
minus getting hurt. Any means.
Robert Saleh put somebody else in.
Yeah, I don't know that he was the best hire. I don't think as a coach necessarily. I know he's defensive minded. I want an offensive minded guy. If I'm in the NFL, I'll let the coordinators worry about the defense. I want.
I feel like the offensive head coaches do a lot better than defensive head coaches.
I mean, it's 2022, man. You got to score points. The league's rules are all set up around scoring points, not stopping people, right?
Yeah, I just think with the Jets, Mike White would do a lot better than what Flacco's doing. And they could have even kept the kid they released in preseason that brought him back in every game. And I know it was just preseason, but he would have at least brought in excitement, and he's a young player. I don't understand. Jets aren't going to the Super Bowl anyway. No reason to be playing Flacco.
Yeah, they may not go in your lifetime, Sean. I'll be long gone, and they won't be here in there either. So that wraps up all of our picks for today. We will put all of our leans, and I'll put all of my totals out there, so folks can see the totals. I'll also put out all of the Magic Excel's picks, so you can see which games look like which teams might cover by how much. And then we're just quite sure where we're going to put them yet, because if anybody can answer that SEO question, I would like to know the answer to that. Also, while you're here, kindly hit the subscribe button. We're just a few people, less than 2 handfuls away from going to 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. We appreciate all of the support. Our goal for 2023, Sean's going to hear this for the first time right now, is to get over 5,000. So Sean's going to have a lot of social work to do to get us there. We're going to get there. Absolutely, unquestionably, we're going to make it there this year. And then, and of course, our goal for this week, Sean, is to make sure that all of our picks are winners, man. We got to get back into the plus column, bro. We can't let Jared beat us and then go to a surprise birthday party.
He should be the one that wanted to do this show tonight to brag about.
No, he texted me right away. Who's leading? Who's leading? And I'm like, dude, it's 1 week. It's who's leading at the end that matters. You have a good night too, William. Thanks for joining us, my friend.
Yeah, he made up for all his minus 190 and minus 200 picks by having the Giants at the plus 220 or whatever it was.
They were at plus 210. Yeah, I mean that. Yeah. If they go for 2 there, they don't get it, and Jared's in a whole different. Hey, but you know what? They got it. That's all that matters.
I had a parlay too under 41.5. If they don't make that 2-point conversion, I win it too. So, or under 40.5 it was. So yeah, that 2-point conversion hurt in multiple ways.
So you got kicked in the left one and the right one on that one.
Yeah, and then at the end of that, I remembered, damn, Jared had that too.
Oh hell, I hope all of you guys win. I don't care. I mean, I hope we all win, right? The idea is for us to turn a profit.
Yeah, but we gave him a hard time about that pick, and he had it. But
maybe we should praise him next time.
It was definitely that that it's my team, week 1. They're going to be good this year. Pick
Homer. He's a homer.
Yeah.
He even had the Giants hat on. All right. Well, that wraps it up for today for the NFL. We'll have our Monday night picks, and of course, if I have some money to play with Sunday night, I will certainly have Sean socialize if I have any plays in that Bears-Packers game, and we'll put our thoughts out for the Vikings and the Eagles on Monday on social media. So you're going to want to catch that at Horse Race, the number 2 at day, at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I know that, tomorrow there's a lot of Woodbine racing, some big win in your in races. So if you like horse racing, head on over to to Horse Racing Radar. Check out our picks. Tonight, if you're up a little bit later, there's Insomnia Racing in Australia. Tom and I put all of our picks out for Caulfield. They got a lot of big group races, which is the equivalent of graded stakes races here in the States. We made our picks there. Deep fields, probably good chances to get some nice prices. You can check that out. And then Eddie C, Chris P put together their thoughts as well on Woodbine. And we did last night with track announcer Robert Geller. So if you're going to play those win and you're in races over at Woodbine, make sure you check that out. Tomorrow is college football. If you're going to play college football, there is a link in the description here on YouTube and Facebook to catch the picks with the professors, ideas in college football plays of the day. Make sure you bookmark that. If you watch the full show, please head into their comments. Be loud, be obnoxious, be like Jared, and don't let them get in a word edgewise.
There you go.
All right. Shawn, before we get up and out of here.
Just to add to that, Horse Center next week we'll have on jockey Erica Murray on Monday, Casey Fossler on Tuesday, and then Jeremy Rose will come back Wednesday. He's been on our show before, but that was when he was retired. He's back riding, and he's winning at 20%. So it's an all-jockey week next week on Horse Center.
That should be a lot of fun. And I return. Shawn, however, is the irreplaceable one. So he's got to change his name. Irreplaceable Swiss Army Shawn. Thank you, Jamie, for making me feel so big. All right, guys, have a fantastic night. No matter if you're betting horses, you're betting Australian rules football like we talked about last night with Robert Geller, or you're betting Australian racing, heading on over to Woodbine or any other track this weekend. College football with the picks with the professor, Major League Baseball as they close in on the playoffs. No matter what you're doing, we hope it ends up in one place, Shawn, and that can only be
the winner circle.
Thanks for joining us. Have a fantastic weekend, and may all your picks be winners, baby.